Ramiro Gonzales was executed by the state of Texas on June 26, 2024. The execution took place at the state's death chamber in Huntsville. The method used was lethal injection, specifically the drug pentobarbital. He was pronounced dead at 6:50 p.m. Central Time. This date held particular significance for the victim's family. It coincided with what would have been Bridget Townsend's 41st birthday. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Gonzales was convicted for the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Bridget Townsend. The crime occurred in 2001 in Medina County, located west of San Antonio. Both Gonzales and Townsend were 18 years old at the time of the offense. The events unfolded after Townsend reportedly intervened during Gonzales' attempt to steal drugs. This confrontation escalated into the fatal crime. Gonzales was not immediately apprehended for Townsend's murder. He confessed to the killing years later while already serving a life sentence. This prior sentence was for the abduction and rape of Florence Tyke in 2002. His confession was made to Texas Rangers investigating Townsend's disappearance. Following his confession, Gonzales led authorities to the location of Townsend's remains. Only her skeleton was recovered. This discovery corroborated his account of the crime. Ramiro Gonzales spent approximately 18 years on Texas death row. He arrived there following his conviction in 2006. During his incarceration, his life reportedly underwent significant transformation. He became deeply devoted to Christianity. This faith became a central part of his existence within the prison system. He was described as serving as a spiritual leader for other inmates on death row. Gonzales consistently expressed profound remorse for his actions. He spoke daily of the pain and loss he had inflicted upon the victim's family. His stated goal was to live a life dedicated to restitution and restoration. In 2022, he sought to make a unique contribution. He requested permission to donate a kidney to a stranger. This request was ultimately denied by the state. Gonzales' legal team mounted extensive efforts to prevent his execution. A primary argument centered on the quality of his legal representation. They contended he received inadequate counsel during his initial post-conviction review. His first federal habeas corpus petition was notably deemed frivolous. This classification severely limited his ability to pursue further appeals on certain grounds. His subsequent legal challenges argued this initial failure was due to deficient lawyering. The defense claimed his original counsel failed to investigate and present crucial mitigating evidence. This evidence included his mother's significant alcohol use during her pregnancy. It also encompassed documented childhood sexual abuse by a family member. Gonzales was later diagnosed with a fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. His legal team argued that the severe trauma he suffered, combined with this disorder, was tragically linked to his criminal behavior. They contended this context was never properly presented to the courts. They asserted that he was denied a full and fair opportunity to present an adequate habeas petition. This procedural barrier, they argued, prevented a thorough review of his case's constitutional issues. The focus was on whether the system allowed for a proper examination of his background and its impact. Another significant challenge targeted the state's expert testimony on future dangerousness. In Texas, a finding of future dangerousness is a prerequisite for imposing the death penalty. The defense highlighted that the state's expert, Dr. Edward Grippin, had recanted his original testimony. Dr. Grippin had initially testified that Gonzales was highly likely to reoffend. Years later, he stated he no longer believed this to be true. He cited Gonzales' behavior and transformation on death row as reasons for his changed opinion. Despite this recantation, state courts ruled that the execution could proceed. They determined that the recanted testimony did not invalidate the original jury finding. This decision raised questions about the reliability of expert testimony in capital cases and the finality of jury verdicts. The defense also raised concerns about Gonzales' age at the time of the crime. He was 18 years old. They cited scientific studies on adolescent brain development. These studies suggest that the brain, particularly areas related to impulse control and decision-making, is not fully developed until age 21 or later. This scientific understanding has led to calls for raising the minimum age for death penalty eligibility. The defense argued this evolving understanding should be considered in his case. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals denied a request to reconsider the dismissal of his earlier appeal. This decision effectively closed off a key avenue for relief in the state courts. His legal options became increasingly limited. Ultimately, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his request for review and a stay of execution. This final denial cleared the path for the execution to be carried out. The legal challenges, though extensive, were unsuccessful in halting the process. As a final recourse, Ramiro Gonzales sought clemency. He petitioned the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles to reduce his sentence from death to life in prison. This process is separate from the judicial appeals. He addressed the board directly, or through his representatives. He reiterated his deep remorse for the crime and its impact. He presented evidence of his transformation and positive conduct on death row. Despite his plea and the arguments presented, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles unanimously rejected his clemency request. This decision meant the execution date would stand unless the governor intervened. A group of faith leaders sent a letter to Governor Greg Abbott. They urged the governor to spare Gonzales's life. They highlighted his spiritual transformation and remorse. However, the governor typically follows the board's recommendation in Texas capital cases. In the moments before his execution, Ramiro Gonzales was given the opportunity to make a final statement. He used this time to address the family of Bridget Townsend directly. He offered them a heartfelt apology. He expressed profound remorse for the pain, suffering, and loss he had caused. He acknowledged the devastating impact of his actions. His words were described as sincere and contrite. He also took a moment to thank his loved ones who supported him. He extended gratitude to the prison staff present. He reflected on his time on death row. He stated that he had strived for responsibility, accountability, and restitution during his incarceration. He aimed to demonstrate that change was possible. His final words focused on his remorse and his efforts towards spiritual and personal growth. Bridget Townsend's mother, Patricia Townsend, was present at the execution. Her attendance represented the victim's family's perspective on the outcome. She witnessed the final moments of the man who killed her daughter. Following the execution, Patricia Townsend spoke to the media. She expressed a sense of relief that the execution had finally occurred. This relief underscored the long and painful journey the family had endured since the crime. She stated unequivocally that she did not feel sorry for Gonzales. Her focus remained on the suffering inflicted upon her daughter and family. She acknowledged the arguments about his difficult childhood. However, she firmly believed that his childhood trauma was not an excuse for his actions. Her perspective highlighted the enduring pain of the victim's family and their focus on accountability for the crime itself. Her presence and statements provided a stark counterpoint to the defense's arguments for clemency and mitigation. Following Ramiro Gonzales's death, his legal team issued a statement. They reflected on his life and the legal process. The statement noted that Gonzales lived with deep shame for his actions. They argued that his transformation on death row exemplified rehabilitation and change. They pointed to his spiritual growth and remorse as evidence of this. His case, they suggested, raised fundamental questions about the purpose of the death penalty. A legal team contended that the legal system should encourage and recognize rehabilitation. They implied that Gonzales' case demonstrated the potential for individuals to change, even after committing heinous crimes. His execution, in their view, represented a failure of the system to fully account for this transformation. The case of Ramiro Gonzales encapsulates many complex issues surrounding capital punishment. It involves questions of culpability, age at the time of the crime, the impact of trauma and developmental disorders, the effectiveness of legal representation, the reliability of expert testimony, and the possibility of redemption. It also highlights the profound and lasting impact on victims' families and the differing perspectives on justice and closure.